Ми є в гострому цейтноті часу. Перед тим, як збереться вся аудиторія, я хотів би наголосити і загострити увагу на ускладненнях, які можна очікувати як після хіміотерапії, так і після виконання будь-яких операцій з приводу колоректального раку. Це є венозні тромбози і емболії. Це є фактично друга причина смерті, окрім прогресування пухлинного процесу. І, на жаль, сьогодні якось це ускладнення пройшло поза увагою всіх. Нагадую вам, що в минулому році Канада випустила, Канадська асоціація випустила керівництво по профілактиці венозних тромбозів і емболії у хворих онкологічного профілю. Треба сказати, що профілактика венозних тромбозів і емболії в онкохірургії, хірургії раку товстої кишки, вона і проста, і складна. Проста тим, що то є завжди високий ризик венозних тромбозів і емболій. Відповідно, якщо взяти еклексан, це завжди 40 мг профілактична доза без поправки на вагу хворого. І вводиться за 12 годин перед початком операції. Наступна доза через 12 годин після закінчення операції. Тривалість 28 днів. Більшість тромбоемболії є після виписки стаціонару, і тому сьогодні прозвучало, що доцільно оцінювати рівень ускладнень не по моменту виписки, а по 30-денному терміну, або навіть і пізніше. В чому трудність? Тромбоцитопенія є достатньо часто у хворих, які отримують хіміотерапію, у хворих на рак. І саме вона іноді є перешкодою. Крім того, треба пам'ятати, що сама тромбопрофілактика при застосуванні гепаринів може привести до тромбоцитопенії. На жаль, на ринку зараз вийшли біосиміляри, які в 10 разів частіше викликають гепарин, індуковану тромбоцитопенію. І тому будьте обережні, якщо їх застосовуєте, хоч вони є дешеві, однак вони несуть з собою загрозу виникнення тромботичних станів. Тобто, якщо ви почали профілактику, на 5-6 день обов'язково перевірте рівень тромбоцитів. Якщо вони зменшились до 50 від початкового рівня, відміняйте будь-які гепарини, переходьте на інші аналоги. Або ж появляються тромботичні ускладнення у вигляді некрозів шкіри, чи, скажімо, навіть некрозів кінцівок. І тому ця проблема є достатньо гостра, пам'ятайте за неї, і бажаю вам, щоб у вас таких ускладнень не було. Можемо починати? Тепер розпочинаємо наступну сесію, першу доповідь. Шановні колеги, є доцільність питання давати після всіх доповідей, тому що це затягує і без того засідання. Отже, перша доповідь з Польщі, з Кракова, це помилки та ефективний аналіз, новий підхід до навчання лапароскопічної хірургії. Будь ласка, в межах 20 хвилин.
Dobrego dnia, drogie kolegi. Dziękuję za zaproszenie, and let me continue in English from this moment. Just to make sure, how much time do I have? Because I thought it's 13 minutes, but it turns out it's 20. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chairman, I come from Kraków, and before I start my presentation, I wanted to share with you one historical comment, because there are several links between our cities, my city, Kraków, and here, Kiev. On my way to work every day, I see this monument, and this is the monument of Count Konstanty Ostrogski, Grand Marshal in Kingdom of Poland and Grand Duchy of Lithuania, a man of politics and military man whose greatest achievement in 16th century was to win the great Battle of Orsha in 1512 against Russian troops. He was buried here in Kiev, in Peczerska Ławra, and his burial monument was supposed to be one of the greatest monuments of Italian Renaissance here in Ukraine. Unfortunately, in 1942, it was destroyed. But I'm not telling this only because of the links between our cities, but you know, this great man of military and politics in the Kingdom of Poland, and he never spoke any Polish. He never spoke Lithuanian, he never spoke Latin. He just spoke Ukrainian while talking to the king, to queen, and to other generals. So I think that he's quite embarrassed by the fact that I come from Kraków to your city and speak here in English. So I'm very sorry, because my Ukrainian is really not good enough to give a presentation. So, dziękuję. So during my presentation, I will talk briefly about training in laparoscopy, how it can be done. I will explain you what exactly is failure mode and defect analysis. And I will try to explain you how can we use this approach in laparoscopy surgery training. We have seen today several presentations which also in part covered the problems of laparoscopy training. And you know, when I started my medical faculty, it was 1991, so the year when Professor Leroy did the first laparoscopic colectomy. And I must say, during my studies, it was a very new and modern thing, and I almost haven't seen any laparoscopy. And during my training as a resident, I saw laparoscopy, but never really had any training in it. It has changed from these years, and now, especially in Western countries, training in laparoscopy is absolutely fundamental part of training of any general surgeon. But in Poland, and probably in other countries, it's not always that optimistic. But the important thing is that laparoscopy is already a very important part of general surgery, and we have so much experience as a society of surgeons that we have to come up with some ideas for training of young surgeons that start laparoscopy. So observership, which is what I did when I was a resident, is in reality the same thing that we used to do in open surgery. You come to the operating room and you see a senior surgeon operating. But here you have the first and fundamental difference between open surgery and laparoscopy. Because in open surgery, it is very important whether you're just observing, or you're a second assistant, or you're a first assistant. Because the closer you get to the first surgeon, the more you will see, and then more you will learn. But in laparoscopy, it's the contrary. It really doesn't matter whether you're assistant, first assistant, second assistant, whether you are inside the operating room, in another room, or even in another country watching the laparoscopy view by streaming, or even on YouTube channel. Because this is exactly the same view that the surgeon have. Of course, there's trocal placement, position of patient, but the operative view is absolutely the same as it have the operator. So this is one fundamental difference. But of course, just watching the movies, watching YouTube streaming, you will not learn laparoscopy. It's just one of the steps, one of the basic steps. So, simulation. We were talking a little bit about simulation today. In general, you know, the simulation boxes, which can be very basic or more advanced, very basic one you can even make by yourself in your home. But, you know, for me personally, the major difference is not what kind of laparoscopy simulating box you have, but whether this is tutored or non-tutored. It means whether you do it by yourself or you have an expert by your side explaining you what to do, how to do it right, and what mistakes not to commit. And you know, it is very interesting because intuitively we think that it would be better to have an expert by your side. But actually there was a very interesting paper comparing these two types of simulation, and it turned out that for some aspects it is better not to have tutor by your side, because the group that were just alone with the simulator took more time, more repetitions to reach a technical goal, but it was, this technical goal was actually better than the one achieved by the guys without simulator, so without tutor. But if you ask me, I say both are very, very important. Then you have animal models and cadaveric models, also very important next step in laparoscopy training. And you know, those are very good models, but of course not perfect. Animal anatomy is different from human anatomy, and cadaveric model, well, dead tissue is always dead tissue. So you can have a very well prepared cadaveric simulator, but it's never going to be like a live tissue. And also, the cadaveric simulation is extremely expensive. And a last thing, which I think is also very important, all those simulations, all those trainings are based at technical goals. What does it mean? It means that when someone is teaching you in this simulation, they are giving you very technical goals. For example, they measure the time you need to pick up a needle. They measure the efficacy of your movements. They measure all the things that can be measured, and then you repeat, repeat, and repeat to be a better technician. And this approach has some disadvantages. First of all, you need to repeat a lot of time to become really good at this. And you will lose the skills if you, for example, go to a laparoscopy course, do a lot of repetition there, go back to your home hospital and not continue doing laparoscopy. These technical skills you will lose very quickly. Of course, you will never lose them completely, but you need to repeat it constantly. And as I said, it concentrates on technical aspects only. Is this bad? Well, I think it's not bad, but it's only one part of the training. But we will get back to this after a moment. So what exactly is failure mode and defect analysis? This is a concept that was created in the industry, mainly in automobile and aviation industry, and it consists on analyzing each industrial process in such a way that they divide the whole process of creating something into very small steps. Then they take each small step and try to figure out what possibly can go wrong during this step. And then, if the fact that can go wrong is very dangerous for the process, they would try to introduce actions to eliminate possibility of the error. So, to put it in other words, They are trying to figure out what can possibly go wrong to eliminate the possibility of this mistake. And this approach can be used both in training but also in practice. In aviation industry, very small mistakes at every moment of the process of preparing, of constructing an airplane and preparing the airplane to start and to fly can have disastrous consequences. If someone uses a wrong size of a screw to screw down the window in the plane, this window can go off during the flight. It happened once. The window fell off and the pilot was sucked outside the plane. And it happened only because someone used the wrong size of a screw. So the aviation industry came with the idea that the basic thing to eliminate this mistake would be to prepare checklists. And those of you that fly, they are constantly doing these cross-checks. Everything has to be cross-checked several times, even if they know that they are not flying over a lake or a sea. They will tell you where you have all the necessary equipment, because they have to do it. Those are the checklists. They have to go by that. And what are the results? Well, during the last 20 years, we have seen enormous rise in air travel, and at the same time, the number of casualties is remaining at the same level. So the percentage of accidents is going really, really low. And this is very, very good result. But the question is, why I'm telling this? Is surgery really like flying? Well, you can say that there are some similarities, because also in surgery, very small mistakes can be disastrous. And I don't mean just the mistake of a surgeon, because there are plenty of people that are preparing a patient for surgery, preparing our operating rooms, and all mistake can be possibly disastrous. And also, we, like pilots, have a lot of technically advanced devices, and every day it seems that we will have more. So can we learn something from the pilots? First thing was the WHO checklist. It was introduced some time ago, but this is not the main topic of this presentation, so I will just go to the other. This methodology, can we use it in surgery? Well, with our friends from Spain, we thought that it might be possible, and we decided that we will design a laparoscopic course based on the failure mode and effect analysis principle. So the first thing we did was to prepare a matrix of the process. The process, in our case, was laparoscopic sigmoidectomy. We divided it into almost 30 parts. Here you can see just first two parts. I don't want to bore you with all those tables. But the first two steps was fixation of the patient and trocar placement. Then we were analyzing what can possibly go wrong during these steps. And if something goes wrong, what kind of consequences it can have. And for each consequence, we had to assign a numerical value that would tell us what is the severity, how serious the event is, what is the probability of occurrence. Is it very rare or is it very frequent? And is it detectable? So if it happens, do we have the way to know that it happened? And then you have at the end, in the last part of the table, RPN, which is risk priority number. It's the result of these numbers. What does it tell us? Well, first of all, where do we have these numbers from? Well, this was a discussion among all people in the team. So this is completely subjective. This is our intuition, our decision. But they do the same in industry. And the result, the RPN, tells us whether this error during this part of a process is very serious or not. In other words, for example, something extremely serious, but that will almost never happen, will have a very low risk priority number. But if something is moderately serious and is quite probable that it will occur, it will have a high risk priority number. And in industry, the limit is 300. If a step have more than 300, it means that it's so dangerous that it should be eliminated, that something has got to be done to eliminate it. And in both parts here, you can see that if you fix wrong the patient to the operation table, well, that's it. You should not be a laparoscopic surgeon, because you can be a great technician, you can make a best anastomosis in the world, but if the patient is not fixed well to the table, and you will turn your table and your patient will fall off the table, it really doesn't matter what kind of surgery you did, because this will have a very, very disastrous consequences. So once we had this matrix with all those points, we started our course. We did it 4 times. Every time it took 3 days. Every time we had 12 surgeons during the course in 6 teams, 2 surgeons each. And every day they would do laparoscopic sigmoidectomy in pig, and every day we would go, don't talk with them, just to calculate the errors they do and calculate the risk priority number for everyone. And the objective of the course was to teach them not to commit the errors that would cost them more than 300 points. So the first day it was like this. The group would enter the OR, the 6 pigs would be anesthetized, and we would tell, okay, so this team takes this pig, this team has this pig, go ahead and do laparoscopic sigmoidectomy. You have all the necessary equipment. So they would take the equipment and do it. And we would check all the errors. And in the afternoon, we would go to the seminar room and point by point, team by team, explain, you did this wrong, and this wrong. You reached this number of points. This is absolutely unacceptable because your patient was a danger. And, well, just to give you an example, these are the results of the first 12 surgeons. You have the first day, the second day, and the third day. As you see, the first day, everyone reached the very serious risk priority number. It would mean that no one in the group, and there were some very experienced surgeons in these groups, would not be able to perform a safe laparoscopic sigmoidectomy. Because if you imagine that you would just enter the room and assume that the pig is well fixed to the patient, but this is precisely the point. You cannot enter the room and assume that someone did it. Because if someone did not do it, so your patient will fall from the operation table and you are responsible for that. So the next day, you can see only after the discussion, after pointing out to everyone, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, without any further explanation, they did much better. And if you see the third day, the result, spectacular. And this is only, it's no technical training.
Sorry,
nothing
Andrzej, time.
Oh, okay. So,
3 minutes.
okay, so I thought that I have 30 minutes. It turns out it's 20. So I'm going to be a bit quicker. So this was the result. For those of you who are more interested in this problem, I invite you to download the paper we did about this in World Journal of Surgery. It was published recently, and it's under open access, so you can download this paper without any problem. Also, this is failure mode effect analysis for the patient, but it's also another part which is very important for us, for the surgeons. And I really like this part because laparoscopic ergonomy is so important. And really a lot of surgeons, laparoscopic surgeons, don't concentrate on this. They start something doing badly and do it badly for the whole of their lives. So it's really very, very important. So I will skip this. This is about another course that we are doing in Spain with our Polish colleagues. I will skip the Da Vinci part, and I'm closing on the summary. So all that I was trying to tell you was about non-technical skills. If you listen to me, I was never telling anything about technical aspects of laparoscopy. It's just about the philosophy, about your approach. There are several very, very good courses in Scotland, in France, in Spain about this, and I really think it's worth it. And in summary, I would say that technical skills are very important, are fundamental for laparoscopic surgeons, and it needs a lot of repetition, a constant repetition. But non-technical skills, the approach we have, the philosophy we have, it is very, very important, because if we are just good technician, it's not good enough. And I think that specially designed courses can reach teaching goal faster and make them more long-lasting. And it's both true for technical and non-technical things. And you know, the summary of the summary is, if you start laparoscopy, it's good to start it well and try not to repeat mistakes along your career. Dziękuję bardzo.
Thank you very much.